Where's the proof? I know you by now probably don't believe me, but hang on. I'll give you all the proof you need. We can easily be fooled by faces, voices, hair, clothes, breast, and hips, but there are certain anatomical male and female traits which can't totally be suppressed or manipulated. Let me just mention a few male traits which are considered 101 forensic school lessons of sex determination. And man can be determined by having an Adonis belt upside down pyramid shape below navel seen in the muscles, a longer ring finger than index finger, wider shoulders and hips, higher defined calf muscles, unlike women who have softer legs with more gradual of a slope toward the ankle. A man doesn't have any hourglass figure. Men have longer and more angular jaws, longer torso, neck and arms, a sloping back forehead, deep set eyes with large brow ridges, a flat back, unlike women who have a curvy back, proportionally small hips, unlike women who have larger hips to the side around the pubic area. Now, understand where I'm coming from. This is a generalization, meaning that, of course, you can find some examples of women with longer ring fingers and index fingers, and you can also find women with long arms, necks, and sloping foreheads, and etc. However, there's no woman in this world who possesses all of these listed male traits characteristics.
Now, I know this is a big red pill to swallow, and I'm sorry to have to give this to you. It's unbelievable, but it's true. I mean, all of these women here are not natural women. These are all men. These are pictures from Miss Tiffany's Universe. It's a Thailand beauty pageant for men who have turned themselves into women. Actually, when you see that group of men from Thailand, it makes our drama queens look masculine. And this is nothing new in Thailand. I remember hearing about this decades ago when I was in the Marine Corps and I was stationed in Japan. And a lot of the guys would take hops over to Thailand if they had like weekend leave and it wasn't long enough to go all the way back to the United States. So they would go to Thailand. And I remember the guys coming back all the time telling these stories. Oh my gosh, she was so beautiful. I thought she was a woman. You know, we were on the beach doing this and her junk fell out of her shorts, out of, down the side of her shorts. I could not believe it. She totally looked like a beautiful woman and all this, that they had these transvestite prostitutes that would always solicit the men, and they were scared to death because they never knew if they were going to be making out with a dude or not. And here they are. This is the Thailand beauty pageant of men. These are all men. So please, I'm only showing this stuff because I want you to understand that I know it's hard to believe that these celebrities and these people that we see and they've presented to us as the beautiful ones, that they could be men. So I just wanted to show you some examples of, these transgenders, and you can't tell a lot of the time. It's just a fact.
When determining the sex of an individual, forensic scientists use upwards of 30+ genetic markers which differentiate biological males from biological females. After a full analysis, even with nothing but the burnt remains of a skeleton, forensic specialists are able to determine biological sex with nearly 100% accuracy. Some male biological markers include, for example, sloping foreheads, eyebrow ridges, strong cheekbones, large square jaws, long wide necks with an Adam's apple, broad shoulders, long straight up and down torso, an Adonis belt, male genitalia, long muscular arms and legs, and large hands and feet, in comparison to female markers, which include more rounded foreheads, no significant eyebrow ridge, softer cheekbones, rounded jawline, shorter petite neck without an Adam's apple, wider hip-to-shoulder ratio, hourglass torso with indentation above the belly button, no Adonis belt, female genitalia, shorter, less muscular arms and legs, and smaller hands and feet.
Now, again, this is science. This is reality, not conspiracy theory. If forensic scientists, forensic investigators find a body that all of the flesh and muscle, face, everything is gone, they can still identify whether it is a male or a female body because the bone structure is different. The pelvic region of the female has to be wider because a baby has to pass through there. See, a baby could never be born through this hip. And the bone structure coming down from the back actually goes all the way down in the male, and it's very short in the female. And you know, the tendons and the muscles are attached to this bone structure. So here's a typical example. I mean, these are incredibly fit humans, especially in this, day and age of fast food and GMO food and all of this stuff. But the point is there are differences between a male and a female, no matter what kind of clothes you put on them. And this shows those examples with flesh over the bone structure. So a man will have this right here. It's called the Adonis belt. Okay, you see a woman, no matter how skinny she gets, the actual muscle structure and how the tendons attached to the bones are different. So a male will have this Adonis belt structure, and the navel will be above the indentation of the waist. But you can see, so there's the indentation of the waist, and the navel will be above the Adonis belt. And on a female, if they're extremely thin and fit, then you can see it well, that the curve will go in right below the rib cage, and the navel will be below the waist. Navel below the waist, navel above the Adonis belt. And again, with the male Adonis belt, the love handle, the Adonis belt structure. There's pink in a bikini. I mean, it's crystal clear. Britney Spears is another one who has a really, really visible Adonis belt. Now, I'm not going to do a whole bunch of transvestigations in this video. There are tons of people doing that. Just type in transvestigation or transpocalypse now or something like that, and they go person by person. Some of the channels do a great job, others of them don't. So you'll just have to wade through it and look at the evidence. Like you can look at Cameron Diaz here and you can see the Adonis belt. Another would be the Adam's apple. Males have an Adam's apple and females do not. So that's usually a dead giveaway. Back when I was coming up, it was so rare, but when I lived out in California and you go over to the west side, you'd know who the tranny hookers were because they had Adam's apples. So, the elitists, they have lots of plastic surgery and stuff like that. So you don't see it all that often. For example, here are a couple of pictures from plastic surgeons' websites for advertisements about this transgender surgeries that they do. And you can see here, the Adam's apple here, they shave it down. They actually go in and shave it down. Now, that does grow back. The cartilage and everything does grow back. So you will see that in the celebrities over the years in between surgeries. And here's another one that just shows the extent they will go to. They literally grind down their bones and shave down, sand down the bones underneath the skin, because the brow ridge in a male is very pronounced and a female is more flat, like the sloping. And you can see here where that's been taken down. They've taken it down to feminize the face. They also round off these jawbones because men have very angular jawbones and women have more of a sloping, rounded style jawbone, typically speaking. And men, as they age, really fill in. If you look at a young boy, they have a very skinny face. And as they turn into a man and then through middle age and an older man, you'll see their faces really square out. They continue to fill out. So yeah, one of the plastic surgery things is to go in, actually shave down that jaw to feminize the face. And again, if you pay close attention to how a lot of these stars age, you will see that filling in, squaring of the jaw. And once the veil's removed from your eyes and you know what you're looking at, you'll see the Adam's apples. You'll see it. You can absolutely see it if you pay attention.
The reason why so many elite transgenders do not have an Adam's apple is because it typically develops after a full male puberty. These elites suppress that puberty by castration, chemical or surgical, and give exogenous estrogen in order to maintain the prepubescent male characteristics that merge with female sex characteristics to create the ultimate in-between. The male jaw is different from the female jaw in a couple extremely apparent ways. The male jaw is far larger than the female jaw, manifesting in the extreme width from the front. From the side, the male jaw is completely square, the bone going straight back from the chin to the back of the mandible, where an almost 90-degree angle forms. In a true female jaw, the bone typically slopes from the chin to the back of the mandible, creating a soft, round profile and finally rounding up at the back of the mandible.
As we age, our skeletons continue to grow. Specifically in males, that's most noticeable. You'll see their jaw broadening and their chin getting wider, as well as other features. The nose grows more on a male and the ears. But for right now, we're going to look at the jaws of these celebrities then and now, and you'll see a common theme. As they age, they get this broad, wide jaw, which is not a female feature. So you might ask, why is that? Well, let's take a look and see why they all have the same feature in common. And remember, we're just looking at the jaws, how square they are, their broad cheekbones, all male features. So as you can see, Jennifer Grey started out with a small jaw and chin, but it didn't stay that way. Because as she aged, her features kept growing, her bones, because she's a male. And she's not the only one. Why do they all have this feature? Look at that. That's quite a prominent jawbone. You can see the sharp angle by her ear. Her chin looks rounded, but overall, the jaw is square. And you can see this person has a heavy brow ridge between her eyes, right above her nose. You can see that that's a male feature. That's quite a prominent jawbone, isn't it? And her cheeks are quite wide, and she has a square chin. Taken as a whole, those are male features. Once again, you'll see that when she was younger, she had a small jaw, but as she aged, it grew wider and broader. It's just time progressing and bone developing. It's a male characteristic to have that jaw. Once again, when she was younger, she didn't have that big jawbone, but as she aged, it became more prominent. And you can see the hard angles at the corner of her mandible. It's a male feature. I hate making these videos. I feel bad for these people, but I don't know why. They're deceiving us, so I shouldn't have any sympathy. This one didn't age well at all. If we all remember how everyone thought she was so sexy, she's not a she. She's a he. You can slap on titties, throw some hair on her, makeup, but it doesn't change her bones. Again, same jaw. They all look the same, but they don't look like us.
Now, what most people do not know about human anatomy is that the body is naturally proportioned based on the ratio between overall body height and the size of a person's head. In this illustration, you can see how perfectly proportioned a typical human body of each gender is. This illustration also reveals a description of how the shoulders are measured. On a woman's body, the shoulder width is typically equivalent of 2.5 times the width of her head. Here we have an example of a healthy woman. As you can clearly see, her shoulders are about 2.5 times the width of her head. A man's shoulders are typically the equivalent of 3 times the width of his head. In this illustration, it is easy to see that this person is in fact a man based on the width of his shoulders in relation to the width of his head. And here we have an image of an extremely athletic man whose gender is confirmed by the width of his shoulders in relation to the width of his head. The scientific community has known for a long time that a man's ring finger is typically longer than the man's index finger. Here are 2 clear pictures that illustrate the differences in ring finger proportions on male and female hands. Notice how the man's ring finger is visibly longer than his index finger. While it is not uncommon for a woman to have the ring finger and index finger at very similar lengths, it is almost unheard of for a woman to have a visibly longer ring finger.
With that in mind, let's have a look at some President First Ladies, or should I say First Men. Did you know that Barack Obama is an Illuminati member and that he is married to a male transgender? Let's begin with the most obvious. Here we see a transgender, and how do I know? Because I see something dangling between the legs. And here is Michelle Obama. And funny enough, she also has something dangling between the legs. And I think I know what it looks like. Surprised? There are many things beside that that gives her away, and I'll come back to that. Yes, I know, cognitive dissonance. The alert is ringing in many of you, but please silence that alarm and allow me to tell you the truth. I know it sounds like a sick joke, but look at the fact. Females don't have anything dangling between their legs. Even if their underwear was loose and they were wearing hygiene pads, it wouldn't dangle like this. Trust me, no way. Let's look at the physical evidence.
Now let's take a closer look at Michelle's body proportions. Notice in this illustration that the height of a typical healthy man is roughly 8 times the height of his head. The height of a typical healthy woman is roughly 7 times the height of her head. This illustration reveals that Michelle stands at 8 heads tall. At this point in human history, there is no amount of surgery that can change his body proportions. His overall height is exactly 8 times the height of his head, proving that Michelle cannot possibly be a woman. The jacket was carefully chosen to diminish the manly appearance of the shoulders. Notice how there is a wide gap at the waist to create an optical illusion that the hips are wider than the shoulders. Michelle is also wearing flat shoes. He does not tend to wear high heels because if he did, while standing at 5 feet 11 inches tall, he would tower over almost all of the women as well as most of the men who are standing nearby. Here we can see Michelle standing next to a woman. Notice how the woman's shoulders on the far left are no match for Michelle's man shoulders. There are many tricks of the eye going on in those dresses. Someone has added a few pounds of necklaces to downplay the bulging shoulder muscles. It is easy to see how Michelle arches his shoulders forward to help with the illusion just a little bit more. This illustration reveals how the hip and shoulder proportions are naturally different between men and women. While men's hips are smaller than their shoulders, a woman's proportions tend to be the opposite. I am not able to show you an image of Michelle at the beach. However, when Serena Williams appears on a beach walking next to an actual woman, it is quite easy to see the physical differences between the body structure of a man and a woman. Even when a man has breasts that are formed by hormone replacement therapy, the hip bones remain much narrower than the shoulders. It is interesting to note that Serena's thin upper body and heavier lower torso are almost identical to Michelle's. When Michelle is put next to a real woman, the male features simply jump out of the photo. In order to trick the eye into perceiving the illusion of wider hips, Michelle typically wears dresses that are tight above the upper waist, but then flare out at the hips. In this image, we can see why Michelle will most likely avoid a simple V-neck in the future. A square front view reveals the broad shoulders and the neck muscles, but the super wide hairstyle creates the illusion of smaller shoulders, and the stacked up jewelry steers the eye away from those massive neck muscles. But in this image, there is a convincing first impression that these two people are both women. And so how do they present the illusion that they are both female? It is really quite simple. The woman wears a loose shirt and tight pants, while Michelle wears a tight shirt and loose pants. Add a few feminine externals, and there you have your illusion. In this image, it is quite easy to see just how large Michelle's shoulders and neck muscles are, especially when compared with the ones Barack has hidden under his suit jacket with the padded and extended shoulders. The bulging muscles under the big hair were perhaps the inspiration for this image that has been circulating on the web. So apparently, I'm not the only person who knows that Michelle is a man, and a very strong man at that, I might add. Let's not forget the Adam's apple. What most people don't know is that the appearance of the Adam's apple can be diminished through surgery, but it cannot be fully removed. In this image, you can clearly see Michelle's Adam's apple. Once again, Michelle's Adam's apple is not too difficult to spot. The Adam's apple stands out in this earlier photo as well. Notice the bulging neck muscles and heavy man brows, even on the wedding day. Have you figured it out yet? Are you ready for your reality check? Brace yourself. Here it is. The United States of America does not have a First Lady, but rather, the United States of America has its very first queen. Its first drag queen, that is.
If you are still blinded, consider that Barack Obama sometimes calls his wife. Unfortunately, the original video was blocked in certain countries due to copyright claims, which I fully understand. So instead of showing you the two copyrighted clips, I'll tell you in plain words what happened. The first clip was from a public speech at Fort Myer, Virginia, September 30th, 2011, where Barack Obama sends a family greeting starting with Michael and I also want to acknowledge blah blah blah. So by mistake, Barack Obama, he says Michael and I, and he doesn't even recognize that he has done any mistake. Obama clearly calls his wife Michael and I. The next clip was a scene with Bear Grylls, the survival expert, asking Barack Obama what he fears most. And Barack Obama tells him that his biggest fear in life is when Mike gets angry. Obama discovers his mistake and quickly corrects Mike to Michelle. Mike and I, or Michael and I. The truth is that Michelle Obama is born a male and was initially given the name Michael.
That Michelle Obama might be a man. I know that might sound ridiculous. Here's what Joan Rivers had to say to kick the controversy into the mainstream.
You know Michelle is a
I'm sorry, she's a what?
a transgender. We all know.
Oh my God.
But hold on. Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, they have children, right?